welcome back to another edition of the Prepper Recon podcast. I've personally been buying gold and silver from JM Bullion for over 2 years. They offer the best prices over spot that I can find, and I've never had a problem with an order. If you're looking to trade in some of your fiat paper for real money, check out jmbullion.com today. Ready-Made Resources is a trusted name in the prepper community because they've been around for 18 years. They offer great prices on night vision, water filtration, long-term storage food, solar energy components, and provide free technical service. Get ready for an uncertain future at readymaderesources.com. Today's guest is Kevin from Redneck Wannabe YouTube channel. Kevin, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you, Mark. It's my pleasure.
Absolutely. So when did you first wake up to the need to prepare?
Oh, it's been probably about 4 years ago. I guess here's a long answer to a short question. I've always been a reader, and so one day I pick up a Robert Kiyosaki book, and it's just he made just like one sentence about gold and silver coins, and so I like and he also mentioned something about a Mike Maloney guy. So I picked up the Mike Maloney book and started reading about just the monetary system. And then I'm like, you've got to be kidding me, And so I guess that's kind of when I woke up, just as far as the financial situation. But, after that, you just, I picked up every book that I could get and every podcast and good sites, good reliable that I felt sites like SGT Report and Alex Jones and some of those guys, and then I just progressively became aware of just my financially, morally, spiritually how corrupt and bankrupt we are, and so long answer to a short question. Sorry about that, Mark.
Yeah, and that's great. And Robert Kiyosaki, he was really instrumental in me sort of finding my own path and doing my own thing as well. Because, he really, really wakes you up to the paradigm that's sort of force-fed to people to just be another cog in the wheel and not do your own thing. And he really, really tries to shake people out of that and encourage them to get up and start their own business, which you've done that, right?
Yeah. I'd always wanted to start a business, and this is my third go round. My first one just it crashed and burned. It exploded. My second business, I did that for about 4 years, and then on a whim, I called up a competitor and I said, hey, I'm looking to sell. If you're looking to buy, give me a call. And I think 6 months later, I had sold the business, and then I started this business, so I've hopefully learned a little bit, but this business has been just instrumental in just understanding, I guess, more of how business happens, but more importantly, I'm able to get my, I'm just able to interact with some of the guys that work for me, some of the employees, some of our customers, and so I've really been able to get more of a pulse of what people are thinking and how they're doing. How they're doing and all that. So,
and then you've just recently started your own YouTube channel, Redneck Wannabe. So, talk to us a little bit about that.
I live in the suburbs, and so it's from my house to get into to where I work takes about 25 minutes, and so I would love to be out in 10 acres in the middle of nowhere, homesteading, growing all my food and completely self-sufficient. That's my dream. But reality just kind of whops you upside the head and says, you know what, you can't do that. And so because, I run a business, I'm married, I have kids, and we have, especially the kids, they have activities, and, I don't want to just go out in the middle of nowhere and be a hermit and, one day wake up and my kids want nothing to do with what I've created or what I'm doing. And so, it's one of those where I want to, create as much of that atmosphere in the suburbs as I can. And I know there's a lot of people like me that live in the suburbs and want to get out, but they just can't for, time, money, resources, what have you. And, so I just decided, you know what, I'm just going to create a YouTube channel and just try to explain, or really show people, honestly, a lot of wrong ways to try to homestead in the suburbs. So, some things I've done right, a lot of things I've done wrong. But it's been fun. I've enjoyed it. And, I've really enjoyed the YouTube channel, just some of the feedback and that sort of stuff.
And a 25-minute buffer, that's pretty good. If you can be 25 minutes out of the center of town, I think that's really, really a good start. And I've always told people, if you can do that, a lot of times you're going to get more land for less money, and that's gonna sort of make up for that extra amount of time investment that you have to put into the commute. And I think that's a really great alternative for folks that are tied to metropolitan areas, either for work or family or, just all the types of things, the services and things that they need to be near. So I think that's a really, really good compromise of, for somebody that it's just not realistic. They're not able to move out to the boonies. So I think that's a great step. And I think that that's something that most people could do. They could do the extra commute and get the little bit of extra property and sort of do this, what you're doing. And I think that that's great that you're encouraging people to do that through your channel. Now, from what I've seen, you really maximize the use of the space that you have to work with, don't you?
I'm trying to, I guess just to, I live, I guess you could say, a tract home. And so, my lot is probably, 100 by 100, or, I haven't mapped it out, but it's something like that. And so I am just trying to I have essentially 5 raised beds, and, they're, probably 30 foot long by 3 feet wide. And so I've got those 5 beds, and I'm just trying to plant as intensively as I can in those beds. And on the side of the house, I've got a rainwater collection that I use for primarily irrigation of the garden. And if I need be, we can drink that. And I've planted 3 fruit trees, and I have a small chicken run with 7 chickens. So that is my backyard, so to speak. So if that's all I had, we, during the summer, our family lives on squash, okra, and tomato sandwiches. And so I love summertime. After September, October, I plant some lettuce and broccoli and stuff like that. And I'm still learning on the cold season crop, so I haven't quite got there yet. But hopefully one day I will. But yeah, we've tried to maximize every square inch that we can, without, just, I guess being I'd love to have, 30 chickens in the backyard, but neighbors don't go for that,
And are you able to feed the chickens from the scraps from your garden as well?
In the summertime, yeah. In the in the wintertime, I grew some kale and mustard greens, which my family's not really that hip on. And so, whenever it comes up, I have enough where I can clip it off and throw it out to the chickens. It started to die off this time of year. So this time of year, it's mainly just scraps and the chicken food. And I just bought some alfalfa pellets for the chickens. So, but throughout the year, I get enough scraps and just garden waste that I can throw to the chickens, and they eat pretty good.
We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back. Cady Armor offers affordable body armor, including Level 3 trauma plates made of AR-500 steel. These plates can endure multiple rounds from pistols and rifles up to 7.62 NATO. Use coupon code PREPPERRECON to get 10% off your entire order at CadyArmor.com. That's CATI Armor.com.
Get prepared before disaster strikes. PrepperRecon.com offers MOLLE-compatible individual first aid kits for your home, auto, or bug-out bag. These kits have everything you need to address a traumatic injury, including an Israeli battle dressing, quick clot, EMT shears, suture kit, steri-strips, tourniquet, tough strip bandages, and so much more. $99 includes shipping. Go to PrepperRecon.com and click the Store tab at the top of the home page. Order today before it's too late.
How's your soil? Do you have to supplement that, and then also at the same time, do you use the chicken droppings for that?
When I first started, I guess I'll back up. When I grew up, my folks had a garden, and they would till and they would plant, and we always had a great garden. And so the first couple of years, that's what I did. I had just a small garden. And so what I would do is I would till, and in the beginning, I would till in February, and I'm like, man, this just looks great. I can't wait to plant. The soil looks so good. But by August or September, man, it was hard as a rock, and it was dry. And so the more I started looking into just soil, the more I learned about adding organic material and all that. So I would bring home, I have a lawn company. And so in the fall, we would go clean up leaves and stuff like that. And so I would bring bags and bags of leaves back to our soil, or to the garden. And I would put the leaves in say September, October. And, I'd have 3 foot of leaves. And then over winter, it would, everything would settle. And so I would till all that in. So the soil would become better, but still tilling, again, come August or September, it was like, man, what good did I do? So I ran across a podcast by a guy, I don't remember his first name, but it was Singing Frogs Farm out in California. And he talked about just dumping compost on your soil and just doing a no-till process where, you put the compost on, you dig a hole, you plant your plant. When it comes time to harvest, you just cut it off at the base and let the insects and the worms eat the roots, and you're not going to get soil compaction. And so I started that, and I really started seeing just a tremendous change because I wasn't having to water as much. Things were growing fuller and bigger. And then I started putting wood chips. I watched the documentary Back to Eden Garden, and so I started putting wood chips on the garden. And honestly, this is the first year that I will have done the wood chips. But just from what I've seen, the wood chips just keep the soil just. It hasn't rained here for about a month. We got about a half inch of rain a few weeks ago. But I dug down into the soil through the wood chips, and man, it was rich and moist, and there were worms, and it was awesome. So the soil initially is kind of a sandy rock, real rocky here, but now with all the compost and the wood chips that I've used, it's just dark and rich, and it's just, I can just go out with my hands and just scoop out a spot and plant whatever. So now the soil has been, it's fairly good, but in the beginning it was undesirable.
And Did you build your own chicken coop? Because that didn't look like what I saw in your video. Didn't look like anything you could pick up from Home Depot.
No, it's been an evolution. I butt up to about 200 acres, and so one day I just thought, you know what? There's 200 acres out there that it's not being used. So I contacted the owner of that 200 acres, and I asked her if primarily I wanted to just expand my garden, and so we talked about expanding the garden. She says, okay, no problem. So I expanded the garden, and then I thought, you know what, I'm going to have some chickens. And so I put some chickens on here. And what I did was, I try to do everything. I'm not independently wealthy. And so I try to do everything as conservative as I can. And so I just jumped on Craigslist. I bought an old swing set for $40, and then my 11-year-old son and we went out and screwed in some 2x4s and some sheet metal, and voila, we've got a chicken coop. So, it's not pretty, but, I like it. The chickens like it, and it works. So, but it's not your everyday run-of-the-mill chicken coop that you can buy online or at the store.
That's awesome. The recycling mentality and doing more with less. I love that. I think that's fantastic. And, a lot of folks, they think that prepping has to be something that's very expensive, and it doesn't have to be at all. So, and just training your mind to think like that, if we do have some type of an economic collapse where money's going to get really tight and resources are going to get really, really tight, having that type of mindset to make do with what you have or what you can find is really, really going to be key to whether or not you make it. If it's something as dire as many people seem to think that it could be.
And that was my main goal is, whether it's, what happened, zombie apocalypse or what have you, whatever happens, if anything does happen, I have a family that I've got to take care of, and I'm not going to be able to run over to Home Depot or Lowe's or whatever and get whatever I need. So I just tried to use my imagination and make things simple. It's amazing what you can do with, PVC and some 2x4s and stuff like that. I mean, and you just use what is readily available to you. And so that's how I've tried to make everything. I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed, but I think I've learned, and I've had to actively teach myself to look at something and just think, okay, what could, or how could I do this, or what do I need? And so I've really tried to just make things simple and improvise and just do with what I have.
And do you have a lot of problems with predators with your chickens?
There was I was flipping through a magazine one day, and I saw there was this little bitty square box, and it was solar powered, and it had an LED light on there, and it said something like Predator Guard. And so essentially what it was supposed to do was the LED flashes at night, and a predator will think it's a bigger predator, and it'll scare them off. And so I thought, what do I have to lose? They were $20, and so I bought 20 of them, because at my place, almost every night we would have deer come up to the fence and just graze, and every other night we'd hear coyotes out there. I mean, sometimes a long way off, sometimes pretty close. A couple times I saw a bobcat. So, I mean, I know there's stuff out there. My 11-year-old, he'll take I think they're called spring traps, and he'll take a spring trap out there and he'll put some cat food. So he was catching, possums and stuff like that. So I knew they were out there. But I bought those predator guards, and I surrounded the coop, or I put one on each side of the coop. And ever since I put those things on, the deer don't even come here. So I know we've got critters out there, but since I put those on there, we don't have to deal with it. So is that coincidence? I don't know, but I'm gonna leave them up there. So as of right now, no, we haven't had predator issues.
Well, it sounds like it works. So good stuff, and it's a heck of a lot easier than putting up a big 8-foot fence or something like that.
Man, you're telling me it's a lot more work and a lot less expensive too. So it seems to really, really be working.
And you have bees, right?
I do, yeah. I started that really before, I guess I started prepping, so to speak, but I just got tired of, like I said, I've always had a garden. I've always enjoyed it, but I didn't, once I woke up is when I really started actively, intensely gardening, but I'd always had a garden, and, some years it just did, okay. Some years it just didn't do very well at all. And one day I just decided, you know what? Don't know what I'm doing, but I'm going to start keeping bees. And so I just went online. I bought a couple beehives, bought the stuff to make the hives, and I started keeping bees. And then it's kind of funny because I spread the word to friends and neighbors and coworkers and stuff like that I was a beekeeper. And that spring, man, my phone just rang off the hook because I would have all these people just in a panic call me and say, hey, I've got a swarm of bees in my trees, or, in the house or in a wall. Would you come get them? And so, sure. So I went out and I got the bees. Sometimes I charged for it, depending on what I had to do. Sometimes I did it for free. But that first year, I ended up, I bought two colonies of bees, but that first year I ended up having 9 hives, and just from catching bees, and and that was frankly not knowing a lot, but I figured I could always ask for forgiveness after the fact, go do it first, and then figure out what I did right or did wrong after the fact. So that first year I had 9 hives, and I was very, very happy.
And you mentioned you have some fruit trees?
I do. I planted 2 peaches and a pear. They're a couple years old, and so they're just now starting to come into somewhat maturity. So one of the coolest things as a dad is I'm trying to teach my kids about just the love of nature, God's creation, how much He can sustain us. And it was just so cool. In July is when we get the peaches to watch my kids just walk out the back door, walk over to the peach tree, pick a peach, and just start eating. And that just makes my heart proud whenever I see that.
And you did a video recently where you'd done some food preservation, some canning. Can you tell us what you canned and how much you got, and talk to us a little bit about that process?
That's if you live near a bigger city, there's going to be, or I would assume there would probably be grocery stores that buy closeouts. And so one of our last canning projects was this particular store, and it may have been Walmart. I don't know who it was, but Walmart would buy 1,000 cases of raspberries, and if they didn't sell them all by a particular date, they would sell them to this, I don't really know what sort of grocery store you would call it, but a closeout grocery store. So they would sell it, all the closeouts to them. And so I just happened to go there one day, and I came back with, I want to say 25 or 30 cases of raspberries. And so I bought some cranberries there a few weeks before. So my youngest daughter and I made cran raspberry jelly. And so I think we came out with, what are the small jars? You've got the big quart jars, but I think the smaller ones are
pints.
Mm-hmm. So I think we ended up having at least 30 pints of cran raspberry jelly. And then I've done the same thing with apples, and a neighbor of mine he just happened to say or tell me that one day he's driving down a backwoods road and he saw a pear tree. So just full of pears. And so he told me, so I drove out there and asked the lady if I could harvest some pears. And so I took 2 5-gallon buckets with me, and God, I want to say 25 quarts of pears we ended up harvesting. So, you don't necessarily have to live on a big acreage in order to sock back some food. If you're in a metro area, go to a closeout grocery store. Hopefully you have one. If you're in a rural area, it's not very hard to drive down the road and see, apple orchards or pears or berries or whatever. And, pull in, and what are they going to do? Tell you no? So that was my mentality. And so we have socked away a bunch of applesauce, pears, jelly, you name it.
And you've got a really nice rain catch system and you mentioned that you use that to irrigate your garden. Is that right?
It is. There's a lot of things I do wrong, but I think I did this right the first time. So, but what I did was I just found a place. It was a feed store, and they were selling those 55-gallon drums that were plastic, and they were food grade. So that's one of the things if you do rainwater harvesting, make sure that what you're catching it in is food grade. And so these were food grade 55-gallon drums. They had the lid that popped right off. And so I just got to thinking, okay, well, how am I going to do this? And I just started thinking, just using my imagination. So I got a hole saw, and so I went over to Home Depot and got some gasket maker, which is just fancy word for hard rubber. And so I drilled a hole in the bottom of the 55-gallon drums and connected multiple drums with PVC and the gasket maker. And then I cut the rain gutter, or the downspout on the rain gutter, and just directed that into the barrels. And so I've got 6 55-gallon barrels, and I'm going off of memory, but I want to say if we get a half inch of rain, then all 300 and something gallons, all of those barrels will be full. And so I also ended up going and buying what are they called? IBCs, something bulk container. And so I've got 2 of those back in the back far corner of the backyard. And so whenever my 55-gallon buckets or barrels are full, I'll use a sump pump and pump that into those IBCs, and that way I've always got water for the garden. And so, total, I've got a little over 1,000 gallons of water stored for irrigation or for drinking if we ever had to.
That's fantastic. Can you tell us again, where do folks go to find your homesteading videos?
Go to Redneck Wannabe, RDNEK Wannabe, WANNABE. So I just started that, and it's been a fun process. I just never understood how much I would enjoy making a video and just showing people honestly how much I screw up, but it could still if you keep on and just keep on trying to make it work and just using your imagination, how things will, it doesn't matter how it looks, just as long as it works. And so that's where I'm trying to focus on with my side, is just, for one, people in the suburbs, that they can prepare as best they can without having to spend an arm and a leg. And as long as they just use their imagination and, just use what they have, they can do it.
Yeah, and they're absolutely fantastic videos. I really enjoy watching them. And whether it's somebody that's just starting out prepping and wanting to do a small scale homestead, or somebody that's that's been doing it for a while and they need some fresh ideas. I think both of those sets of people are going to really enjoy your videos. And even if you've got a really small yard, you're going to really get some great ideas from Kevin's videos on how to maximize the space that you've got to work with. So I think you're doing great work, and thanks so much for being part of the solution, and thanks for making time to come on the show today.
Hey, thank you.
Are we living in a time of which there is more prophetic writings than of any period in history? Watch through the eyes of Noah Parker and his family as a global empire takes shape. Ancient writings are fulfilled, and the last days fall upon the once great United States of America. The Days of Noah, Book 1, Conspiracy by Mark Goodwin, is a fast-paced fiction thriller which looks at how modern conspiracies could play into biblical prophecy concerning end times. Buy The Days of Noah in paperback, Kindle, or audio edition at Amazon.com today.